A dirt cheap Undertaker rookie card? A rare Kurt Angle relic? Old wrestling stuff that possibly modern wrestling fans don't care about? We've got more rare obscure food product wrestling cards. And will this card eventually, potentially, be the first six-figure wrestling card? This is the Wrestling Card Market Watch for August 2021. What's up, wrestling fans, trading card collectors? Welcome to another episode of Wrestling with Cards. Another month's in the books, so it's time to go back and look at some interesting sales, some interesting cards, and interesting numbers in the world of wrestling cards.
Going to wrestling.
I enjoy doing these videos at the end of each month, looking back at the previous months, just to give some kind of insight and shed light on some things going on in the wrestling card space, as well as providing perspective on related topics. No, this isn't a pump and dump, and no, this isn't me telling you what to buy and sell. It's just some ideas and some things and ways to think about as we navigate the world of wrestling cards. 1991 Merlin Undertaker card number 30 rookie card, 99 cents with $2 shipping and handling. Wow, how the mighty have fallen. These cards, these Merlin rookie cards from Undertaker 1991, even as recent as 6 months ago, were some of the most sought after Undertaker cards in the hobby. Even more so than those blue classic cards that everybody also likes to chase. Both the classic and the Merlin are considered rookie cards of the Undertaker, either way you go. But this card specifically that sold, also Merlin card number 103 from the Undertaker, are two of the more iconic images of the Undertaker in his rookie card set, especially that card 103. That's by far my favorite. So we have to wonder, why did this card go for such a little amount? Could it be that it's in poor condition? It is raw on a top loader. The pictures aren't fantastic, but after kind of inspecting some, zooming in on the pictures a little bit, it doesn't look that bad to me. Sure, it may not be a PSA 10, PSA 9, whatever. It might be. Hard to say, but at this price that it sold for, no lose. Let's flip it around. Could it be that it's not graded, and that's why people are interested? We all know there's a huge demand with graded cards currently. Not as many people buying the raw cards possibly. Could be, because I've seen this card and other cards from the 91 Classic and the 91 Merlin in graded form, higher grades, like we'll say 7 to 10 in that area. Those are selling for a lot more consistently. And those are in varying types of slabs from different companies at also varying grades, as I said. Somewhat relevant to this discussion, but we've also seen certain raw cards selling for the same amount, if not maybe a little bit more, a little bit less, than certain cards that we see in slabs, depending, of course, upon the grade and the grading company's slab that the card is in. This could be a situation where somebody just got a heck of a deal or possibly snagged this auction at one of those weird times. So if you guys are ever listing an item and you want, your max value, generally putting up for auction is the best way to dictate what something is worth, what someone is wanting to actually pay for an item. The general public bids on it. Highest bid is generally what people are willing to pay, right? But just remember, if you are selling stuff on eBay, if you're listing stuff, make sure to list your auction to where it ends at a good day and time. Maybe not something like 3 in the morning or 8 a.m., something like that. So just a little food for thought on the selling perspective of this. Overall, with this sale, there's just so many angles to look at and analyze, and I'm not sure that there's a right one to pick. In fact, I've covered some of these topics on separate videos and Q&As and podcasts, but each one of these angles that I brought up, whether it's grading, buying raw, the auction technique, all of these could be show topics amongst themselves. 2002 Fleer WWF All Access Kurt Angle Event Worn Ribbon Relic Card, $185.50, $2.95 shipping and handling. Yes, it's true.
It's damn true.
We're talking about a relic card from Kurt Angle, but no, this isn't your run-of-the-mill black t-shirt swatch relic card. We're talking about an event-worn gold medal ribbon relic. I say event-worn because it plainly states on the back of the card, event worn. Doesn't say a specific event, it just says, hey, Kurt Angle wore this at an event. When looking at relic cards, I think the wording on the back of the card is the most important part of the card, to be honest. So here's what I mean. In the wrestling card hobby, we've seen thousands at this point, relic cards of t-shirt swatches, pieces of the mat, etc. Many within the wrestling card hobby actually write these off. Me and Tony Vella on the Worlds Collide podcast have joked around about, hey, There's so many pieces of the ring mat out there, you could build your own ring. Or there's so many t-shirt swatches out there, you could build your own ring-worn wrestling shirt, right? I think many people dismiss these because there's just so many, and a lot of them don't necessarily say what they're from, because, again, the wording on the back is very important. I like to put relic cards into 3 categories. First being your run-of-the-mill, matte, t-shirt, relics, etc. Secondly would be the more rare stuff, so, a ribbon relic like we're talking about today, piece of a mask, piece of a turnbuckle, a trash can lid, etc. And then the third category I like to put these in is the event worn, where you can actually see what event it was from. So it may say, this is from this match in NXT, this is from this match at WrestleMania, blah, blah, blah. You get the idea. For me, this card specifically falls into the rare obscure category. I say that because, as I stated in the different categories, this card specifically doesn't say what event it was from, yet it's not your run-of-the-mill t-shirt matte card, so it goes right in the middle in that rare obscure card section. Another reason they go in that rare obscure category, to me personally, is because these just don't pop up very often. You don't hardly see these graded or raw coming up on eBay or anybody on the secondary market on Twitter or Instagram wanting to sell theirs. But when they do pop up, like this one, they're going to sell for a good chunk of change, and that is actually regardless of what condition they're in. And that's another interesting thing to think about when buying relic cards. Sure, when you're going out there and you're looking for cards, you want the best condition possible. You want that PSA 10, whether it's a graded, or if you're really good at submitting your own cards, looking at it and, through the pictures or in person if you're at a show or buying from an individual, and trying to get the best grade possible. But ultimately, in my opinion, for these relic cards, you're buying the picture on the card, but more importantly, the relic that's inside the card. That relic really is the main draw of the card. It's a piece of memorabilia that's not going to take up your whole space in your house, You get a little piece of history in a little card. That's why I'm a huge fan of the relic cards, but again, specific ones. And again, I bought some of these important relic cards to me that are maybe PSA 6s. Maybe they've got a huge crease in it. I've talked about the Rock and Mankind card that I have that's got a dual relic of them, and there's a huge crease in the back, but I wanted it for the piece of memorabilia. I understand the card is not going to be that high of a grade, but it was all about the relics in the card. 1909 Ogden Pugilists and Wrestlers. Frank Gotch, number 74, PSA 4, $300. I think this was actually a sale from Wrestling Card King Rob England. Could be wrong, but I think it was. If you're unfamiliar, go check out my interview with Rob. You can check that out there. Also, I have the podcast version of my interview with him, which you can go check out. Links in the show notes. I absolutely love these old school wrestling cards. When I say old school, we're talking 100 years. No matter what slab they're in, no matter what grade they're in. There's just something to me that's so cool about owning a piece of a cardboard, piece of history, collectible, that's over 100 years old and really celebrates the origins of professional wrestling. But this actually brings up an interesting topic that I've been really thinking about lately. Eventually, I may do a video separate on just this topic, but let's jump into this. That's the topic of just vintage cards in general. If you're a diehard wrestling fan, or you're somebody that's a historian and you appreciate wrestling history, you know Frank Gotch, you know how important this card and some of his other really early cards from this time period are to the hobby and to wrestling history. But if you're a younger fan, or possibly you are a diehard younger fan but you just don't know about Frank Gotch, or you aren't familiar with wrestling history, or you're really just into modern stuff and you don't like to go back and look at the past, there's a chance you don't know who Frank Gotch is and you frankly don't care. Get it? I said Frank. Frankly, no? Okay. What really got me thinking about this topic with the vintage cards, specifically this one and, it being very vintage, is when I'm looking at the same kind of vintage cards, but in these other sports. I'm mainly talking about the big three: basketball, baseball, football. Those cards all have their vintage key iconic cards. 86 Fleer Jordan. You've got 52 Mantle. We'll throw Joe Montana in there. But many of the other household names and Hall of Famers for sports fans in those categories, they just get pushed to the wayside. No cardboard love for these guys. Could that be because they currently aren't playing? They're out of sight, out of mind. And we live in this world now in the hobby where it's, what have you done for me lately? What's in front of me? What can I have a rooting interest in? I can watch them live on TV every week. And I have said before that you essentially have all this with wrestling cards. There's a thing called YouTube and the WWE Network, and there's other things out there. But again, it's a mindset thing. I'm just wondering if this younger crop of collectors, whether they're brand new to wrestling and they're 4 years old, or whether they're an older crowd that maybe collects sports that are coming into wrestling cards, not sure. Maybe those people just have a different mindset and they don't respect wrestling history as much as they do the modern stuff. Just a perspective. I hope everybody's enjoying this video so far. If you are, give me a thumbs up. Give me 5 thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button. And here are just a few quick reminders of how you can help continue support my content and keep these shows going each and every week. As I said, hit that subscribe button. That's the easiest thing you can do. That helps get the show into more people's faces on the YouTube algorithm. And speaking of getting the show into more people's faces, another easy thing you can do is share this video with a friend. Share it with a wrestling fan. Share it with a sports card collector. Just continuing to build the community and get perspective out there about the hobby that is so great, wrestling cards.
Build it, R-A-S-S-L-I-N-S, wrestling.
If you want some audio content, make sure to check out the 2 podcasts I'm involved with, Wrestling with Cards, the podcast, which is an audio companion to these shows. Some of the topics are the same, but the recordings are all new generally. So you're going to want to make sure to check that out, subscribe, and leave a review for that show when you're done. And of course, the second podcast, Worlds Collide. Myself, Tony Vella from WrestlingTradingCards.com. Many different crazy back and forth bantering topics about several different aspects of wrestling cards. We also like to have special guests on there. So subscribe to that one and share it with a friend as well. And of course, we want that 5-star review. If you would like to help contribute to my content from the monetary perspective, links in the show notes to my eBay store. I've got cards on there as little as $1 all the way up to some slabbed cards that are pretty decent, complete sets. Something on there for everybody, so that helps contribute back to the show. Also, links below to my Patreon, where you can help contribute to the show monetarily for as little as $1. Get your name in the credits of these videos, come on the show, dictate where the content's going to go, come up with some creative ideas requesting topics for videos. Really, that's one of the best ways that the community can get involved with the show. And lastly, you know it's coming. I'm still drinking coffee, always staying caffeinated. But when I run out, I've got a refill. That's where you come in. You can buy me a coffee if you want. Regardless, everything I've talked about, links to everything in the show notes when you're done watching this, or if you want to pause this and go check out those links. Greatly appreciated. Thank you for your continued support. 1988 Quaker Dips Uncut Sheet BGS 9, $1,499.99. So for those of you unfamiliar, Quaker Dips is a chocolate-dipped granola bar that are actually still produced.
Let's go take a dip. Dips you can crunch and you can lunch them because it's good.
I'm actually honestly a fan. I've been eating them since I was a little kid, and I still like to pick them up at the store every now and then. But these cards, like many food issue cards of the 80s and part of the 90s, were on the back of the box. So you would actually have to hand cut these cards out individually. You can imagine how that ended up if you're giving a kid a pair of scissors. Let's look at a few reasons why I think this specific card, or cards I guess, sold for this amount. First off, it's considered an uncut sheet because someone took the box looks to be in decent condition, folded it, and then had it graded just as a whole sheet, which is something we don't see very often. Cool idea. Again, it's already graded, so we're not having to worry about going through the grading companies and waiting 9 years to get this back. And then let's talk about the cards themselves. Sure, there's 4 cards on here, but the card that this is the real draw is that Ultimate Warrior card. This is produced in 1988, so technically this makes this one of the first ever Ultimate Warrior cards. Also interesting, if you look at the image, this is probably the closest that we're going to get to having a Dingo Warrior card, because this is really early Warrior here. Even if you're just wanting the Warrior, or even if you're just wanting certain Quaker Dips cards, some are available at a decent price, but depending on the names, a lot of them are very hard to find. I've talked about them in some previous videos. Something else that I want to talk about on this, and just kind of a side note, me personally, when I first started seeing these large things graded, so 8x10s or oversized cards, comics, magazines, video games, etc., I thought it was cool, but I was like, how does this fit in with my personal collection of cards? I have all these cards in this box. How is this big, oversized piece going to look next to it? So initially, when I first started seeing these, I was like, these are cool, but not for me, because in my mind, I've just got some OCD or something, and I couldn't figure out how I could display them or keep them stored with my cards that are already graded. But after seeing a lot of cool graded items out there, I've really started to turn the corner on my way of thinking about this. I've started just looking at these things objectively and being like, this is an awesome piece. I don't care where it stores or if it goes next to cards. In fact, as you can see, I have a lot of wax here. A lot of my singles, they're in card storage boxes and put away. 1998 Comic Images The Rock on-card auto, PSA 9, $19,999. However, a best offer was accepted of $7,000. On the Worlds Collide podcast that I mentioned earlier, again, links in the show notes for that, Tony brought up the question in one of our roundtable episodes, what do we think will be the first six-figure wrestling card sold? In my opinion, this card specifically has got a chance to do that, but let me explain why. Now I know, this card didn't sell anywhere near a six-figure amount, and we've also seen some other Rock cards sell for more than this. I get it. But of all the Rock cards out there, this one specifically really seems to check all the boxes when I'm looking at something that could have major long-term value. Or if you're just looking for the card to own. So first off, it's an on-card auto. You can't go wrong with those, and it even says it on the back. Congratulations, you've got a card signed by The Rock. This is also one of The Rock's first WWF pack pullable cards. I know a lot of people want to use that Beckett definition of a rookie card for pack pullable cards. Well, if that's the case and that's how you view things, then this is one for you. It's a great image with the Raw's War banner in the background. It just sends all that nostalgia back to the Monday Night Wars that all of us used to love. It's really rare also that you see these Comic Images cards getting 9s and 10s. But something else I want to bring up that can get a little confusing when you're looking at wrestling cards, especially in the PSA slabs, is be very careful when you're looking at the grade. There are people that will send these in that'll get them authenticated but then grade the auto. There are people that will grade the card and grade the auto. Grade the card and not grade the auto and just have it authentic. So when you're reading the label on the card, if you're interested in buying one of these, or if you're wanting to send one off to grading for yourself, just be careful about which services you're selecting to help not get people so confused. As we know, we don't see very many 9s and 10s on these Comic Images cards because of all the chipping and the black on the front and back black borders. And sure, if you go on eBay right now, you can probably find a handful of these Rock on-card autograph cards. But they don't pop up as often as, say, Chrome Refractors. Well, I guess that depends on what year you're talking. Some of those don't pop up either. It also appears that The Rock isn't signing as much as he used to, so could his autographs be getting even more rare? It's possible. So all the factors I've talked about this card seems like the perfect storm for the great wrestling card that could eventually be a six-figure card. Now, it's just my opinion. What do you think will be the first ever wrestling card to hit that six-figure mark from a sale? Let me know in the comments. Let's get a good discussion going. I'd like to get everyone's opinion on this because it's a super important topic and kind of helps people steer, if they're wanting to look at this from an investment standpoint, what should they look at? And I'm not saying telling people what to buy and sell. I'm saying, what do you think could be the most valuable wrestling card and hit that six-figure mark? And when you're done leaving a comment on that and you're done checking out all the awesome things I've got going on, links in the show notes, click the video on the screen for even more great wrestling card content. We'll see you there.